Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for attendance at this extraordinary finance and policy meeting, Tuesday 24th of June. Live stream has begun. Welcome to all of those who have joined us on live stream for this meeting. Zoom attendees, we have nil. We have one apology from Reverend Cook. If I could ask someone to move that apology, please. Moved Councillor Broad, seconded Councillor Ludlow. Thank you. All in favour? Aye. Aye. Thank you. We'll move on to declarations of interest. I'll just remind councillors, if there are any of declarations of interest, please inform us at this point. None. Thank you very much. Okay, we are now on tab 3, the financial rating policy. Patricia, if you would like to take us from...
I'll let Rhiannon lead this one.
Kia ora, councillors. So the rating policy was the final matter consulted on alongside the annual plan, and you'll recall we consulted on with the community on the proposal to an addition of the stormwater rating boundary within the rating policy, reflecting new data that we had available flown from LIDAR in relating to being able to more accurately identify where water was entering the network. So we had a lot of really useful, good quality submissions on this process, and the teams worked through a lot of those. However, as part of that process, there are still some areas of complexity to work through, and as a result of that, in combination with the fact that since we went out to consult, there's some further guidance become available as part of the water reform process, particularly around how rating or slash fees for stormwater is likely to look in the future, which still hasn't yet landed. We're recommending to pause this work now and continue it so that it's ready for next financial year when we've got that new information and we can work through the last remaining site visits that we would like to do within the area. So on that basis, this report is recommending retaining the existing rating policy with one change noted in the report, which is around the heritage rate and just removing that rate from the policy. It is no longer needed. And I just want to note 2 further administrative changes that we'll recommend making to this rating policy. So we normally, as a normal part of the long-term plan, review the rating policy every 3 years. On that basis, it's included within the long-term plan itself, and it has the forecast rates for the current year. So to avoid any confusion, we would just recommend removing that table from the rating policy and referencing to review that within the annual plan document itself. So on that, I will pass to Patricia just if there's anything further that she wants to add, and happy to take any questions.
Nothing further I want to add, Chair.
Thank you both. Councillors, are there any questions for either Rhiannon or Patricia? Councillor Campbell.
As we work through the stormwater rating policy and we listened to submissions, it became obvious that there was a level of complexity and uncertainty in some cases about direction of water flow that it just made it horribly difficult, I thought. So I'm pleased to see this proposal and I support it. I do note though that we make reference to the fact that there is regulatory change coming up which might impact it, but then go on to say that the work will be completed in the next financial year. And I wonder, given the complexity of what we heard, whether it would be likely that we would in fact complete that work in the next financial year, and whether it would be better to simply say that we are not proceeding with the change at this time. So in other words, leaving out everything that sits below that. Now, I know that the whole purpose of this is fairness, and I accept that, but it just seems to me unlikely that Gordian knot that we found when we tried to unravel what it meant was so complicated that I just don't see how it can be resolved even in this coming year. So my question, turning into a question, Chair, is why, in recognising the fact that regulatory change is coming, which might change the whole thing, why then did we add that point about we will continue to do the work and it might be implemented next year? And whether you felt as though that was useful to add that?
Yes, so through you, Chair, thank you for that question. It is a complex issue, which we knew and were aware of going into the process. I think certainly the level of complexity just within some particular areas was greater than the team expected. We noted when we adopted for consultation that it was based on tech desktop analysis. The consultation process was really useful for identifying areas where site visits would be necessary, and a large number of those have been concluded. We do have options that we would bring forward to Council. It just wasn't possible to land those within these times. As the report states, those are really in two areas, which is in relation to being able to more correctly identify which area or which direction water is flowing and whether it's entering the network. And you're absolutely correct, we have identified some property parcels within that 474 where it is either clear water is not entering the network or it is not possible to determine, so we would recommend those not be included within the boundary. And the second area is really a decision for Council around the extent to which a property should be fully within the boundary before being rated. So we would suggest some options around that. At this point, we still do think it's possible if the regulatory information lands within the next financial year to finish this process next year. But you're absolutely correct. That may not come to pass if for some reason that is not clear from central government how that process for charging stormwater would land. I'm sorry, that was quite a long answer, but I guess at this point, on the information we have available, and with those caveats, we do believe it is possible at some point next financial year to finish this work.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, any questions for Rhiannon or Patricia? Mayor Clark.
Yep, just a couple of questions. First one's on page 12, which talks about stormwater drainage. So am I right to assume that a person or a property that doesn't have drainage into an ICC drainage system still pays 25% by way of a general rate, but
Correct.
doesn't incur the other side? So I guess the rationale for my next question is, if I live in Otatara, for argument's sake, and I'm not on water or sewerage, I don't pay part of the general rate for water and sewerage in the city. So why do I pay for drainage, stormwater drainage?
I'll pass that one to Patricia.
So the rates are separated. So the general rate, what we're saying within the general rates that people see on their rates invoices, that includes an amount which funds 25% of the stormwater drainage activity. So that was a decision when we redid the rates policy in the 2021-31 long-term plan, and that reflects an allocation for use of the benefits from the stormwater drainage activity elsewhere in this when people are travelling around the city, mainly roads. So that was the split that was made at that time. Okay. So that just is recognising that stormwater benefits everybody.
Second question is on the following page, which is page 13, which talks about water rates, and it talks about residential and non-residential. So I just want to be clear on the non-residential ones, because they clearly have a differential. So am I right to assume that the non-residential is commercial, or includes commercial and industrial?
Correct.
So at previous meetings, in fact on 2 previous meetings, I sought to clarify what was raised by 2 large industrial plants in South City, the meatworks and the dairy businesses down there, that they were paying a higher rate per cubic metre of water based on the fact that they were not the same as residential. And I got assurances that that was no longer the case. But this chart would indicate that they are paying a higher rate per cubic metre, regardless of whether on water meters or not. So are they paying more per cubic metre than a person a residential would pay?
I think the CEO might have a comment here.
Sure.
Through yourself, Chair, I'll leave it to my CFO to respond.
So this is for those commercial and industrial properties that are not on water meters. So if they are on water meters and our large users are on water meters, they are charged that way. For those that are not on water meters, they are charged on this basis, I think is how it is worked.
So
Just want to clarify that. So if, putting aside the large ones that are on water meters, the small ones that are not using water meters, and there must be some of them, they will have that differential.
Correct.
Okay, just want to be clear on that. Thank you.
Thank you, councillors. No other questions? Okay, moving to the recommendations. Councillor Campbell, the answer to your question does probably raise the issue, particularly taking into account recommendation 3 makes it clear that further consultation would be required. So it really raises the question of whether you want to suggest an amendment to recommendation 2 to remove the reference to the following financial year.
Thank you for offering that opportunity, Chair. Yes, I would. I think recommendation 2, there should be a full stop after time, the first word in the third line, and the remainder of those words should be struck off. I think that probably means that recommendation 3 would fall away if we do that, unless recommendation 3's got some other purpose. I would recommend that because I think there's a lot of uncertainty about whether the work will be completed in this next financial year, and I think there's also uncertainty about, given everything that we have heard through the submission process, and given what's now reflected in this paper, whether we'd actually want to go ahead, even if we did hear that it was physically possible now. So I would propose that the next time we look at this is when we get further advice on regulatory change, as paragraph 2 begins, but that we've just put a full stop after the word time to take that monkey off our back about doing it within the next financial year. And I think that means that we take away recommendation 3.
I think that my invitation to you was on the suggestion that the amendment to 2 would still leave recommendation 3 in place. However, perhaps the CFO has a comment here.
I do believe we should leave 3 in place. I'm looking at Rhiannon, because 3 says that the information and the work which the members of the public have done and part of the submissions has not gone to waste and will be used. There will be another piece of work required. We know that, but we don't want to. That just is noting that we will continue to use that information that we've done to date on that next piece.
Thanks for that. I understand. I just misunderstood. But I would still propose, Chair, that we finish paragraph 2 after the word time.
Okay, so we've got an amendment moved by Councillor Campbell and seconded by Councillor Boyle. That recommendation 2 has the words, has a full stop after the word time, and the words after that are then removed. Okay, I will put that as an amendment. All those in favour of that amendment?
Small point of order, Chair. There's no motion sitting on the table, so that's just the motion now.
It's true. That's very true. Okay. So we have an amended motion without the need to vote on an amendment because we didn't have the originals moved. Okay, so if everybody is of that understanding, there is now a motion 2 that removes those words and inserts a full stop after time. 1, 2, 3 and 4 then stand as I have indicated, with 2 having those words removed. There's then a following recommendation to council. So if someone is now willing to recommend, perhaps we do this motion by motion. So if someone would like to recommend that we receive the report. Thank you. Campbell, Councillor Dermody. All those in favour?
Aye.
If someone would then like to move that we, the recommendation for recommendation 2, as it now stands with the
removed.
words removed.
I'll move, Chair.
Thank you. And Councillor Boyle seconds that. All those in favour?
Aye.
No one against or abstaining? Thank you. Recommendation 3 and 4 could probably now be moved together. Thank you, Councillor Dermody, seconded by Councillor Campbell. Thank you. All those in favour?
Aye.
No one against or abstaining? Thank you. And the recommendation to Council to adopt the rating policy as attached. If I can have a mover for that.
Sorry, Chair, could I just suggest one amendment to wording on 5, just to reference that removal of the rates to be collected table and reference to the annual plan, just for complete clarity.
Thank you. Patricia, do you have a suggestion for words? Do we want to say to adopt the rating policy as attached with the minor amendments discussed?
With the minor amendments to the rates collected table, I think
Yes.
it is, isn't it?
Okay, mover of number 5. Councillor Dermody, you're happy with that slight amendment there to the wording? Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Campbell. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
No one abstaining or voting against? Thank you, councillors. In that case, that draws this extraordinary meeting to a close. There is no public excluded session. Thank you to those who have joined us on live stream. I haven't won any records for the brevity of the meeting, but we have achieved the adoption of the rating policy in full. So thank you all for your attendance, and we'll see you